touch up base on natural gas here. Let me pull it up. Nat gas. So you can see natural gas has had a clear bounce off of that technical level that we gave. I'm a little upset that we didn't get to cover our short, which we had a plan to, but it happened when the markets weren't open for us. It happened basically around 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning where it hit our technical level and it started rallying off of it. So we never ever got to cover our short on that level. In one of our previous videos, we did say it was going to have a bounce off of that support level and have a big retrace. Now, where this may possibly be going, I still don't think you're going to take out this high. That is a strong weekly candle with an insane amount of volume behind it. So I think that top still holds, especially on a weekly time frame. But if we flip to the UNG has a clear technical gap fill here around the 2638. But look what you rallied into today, and look what you pulled off to. This was one of our original trend lines in that we used as a guide to potentially add to our short positions. So you can clearly tell that there's resistance there. And the question is, I still think you have a chance of pushing up to this gap fill, but I think this gap fill is going to be the icing on the cake for natural gas. Once it fills there, then I think we start the next down leg. So we just have to be maybe another week or a few more days patient with natural gas, but I still think we're going to get paid out. One of the reasons why natural gas popped is because today was the cutoff day for Russia declaring that all natural gas purchases have to be paid in rubles. So you've heard a lot of booing and squawking from obviously the EU and countries in Europe regarding that they're not going to pay. Well, newsflash, countries are already giving in and paying for their natural gas in rubles. And it's kind of a, it's very counterintuitive because in my opinion, now that countries are paying for their gas, well, not all of them, but some countries are now starting to pay for their natural gas in rubles, it should eliminate that supply crunch that we've been shipping to Europe. The LNG from the States that the States have been shipping over the last couple months in preparation for this, natural gas ruble payment system. But it should really help crush the overall price and down to the downside. Now that some countries are on board with paying, and the fact that, the likes of Poland and Belarus, they already have planned for completely phasing out Russian natural gas. And they have pipelines in Europe that are now active, and basically their energy minister said that she said no person or no household is going to go without natural gas if they need it. So that should be ultimately bullish for natural gas to the downside. So it should be bearish for natural gas. It should help further the case for more downside. I still think you are overbought. But if you look at how natural gas is acting, it's had its first hard pull off. And now it's kind of having this retrace potentially back to this gap fill. If we analyze the oil chart, so the WTI, oil also had its huge pullback, had hit support and had this mega bounce. I think this is where we're at in natural gas. We're having this mega bounce scenario that eventually we will see the next down leg. And oil is kind of interesting because it hasn't made a really new closing low. This has been your line in the sand. I do think once you break this 94, 95 level, then you're going to see quickly this 85 level. But notice how you haven't made a lower low, but you are making lower highs. So what signifies a downtrend is making a series of lower lows and lower highs. So we have the lower high scenario over here. Lower high, lower high, lower high. Now the question is, we need to see the next lower low on the charts. So I do believe once we hit this trend line, we're going to see the next down leg start on oil. Okay? So just be very, very patient, but natural gas is just acting very similar to how oil acted. And if we throw on a retrace just from this pivot high down to this low, you can see that it just passed the 50. It's almost retracing to the 618. Let's go back to oil. Let's see where oil retraced to, basically on a fib timeline. Let's see what's going on here. So if we take a fib from the low, or sorry, from the high to the low. It basically it pierced the 618. So it pierced the 618 retrace on UNG. We're almost piercing that 618 retrace. Actually, a 618 retrace a pierce of the 618 retrace would fill that technical gap. So notice how they're moving basically in symmetry so far. And obviously it hasn't really completed its full move, but it's moving in very, very similar fashion as to oil did. And just like oil's 1990 pivot, 2014 pivot, and 2022 pivot acted as resistance, which put the top in oil, the exact same pivots from 1990, 2014, and 2022 act as the natural gas pivot. So it stands to suggest that this is going to have a retrace to the minimum 618, have a pierce of the 618 retrace like oil did, fill this technical gap, and then I think we're off to the races on the downside. And now, because this hit our first support level, I'm actually comfortable holding this KOLD position actually a little bit lower. So in hindsight, I may be squeezing, even though I'm down on the trade today, I'll probably squeeze an extra 5 to 10% out of it, or a potential 10 to 20% on the KOLD